It's time now to take a look at what's taking the front pages in papers across the world. Belle Lupton is with us, been scouring those for us. Belle, the big story, certainly here in Europe, is this migrant crisis, and notably in northern France around Calais.
It's certainly Europe's biggest story, and it's playing out on both sides of the channel on those front pages. According to tabloid Le Parisien, I know we spoke about this in the French press review, but the situation, Le Parisien says, has never been so strained in Calais. Every night, it says, more than 1,500 migrants attempt the crossing by tunnel. Now, the human tragedy continues, is how they put it. More than 37,000 people have been stopped from crossing the channel since the start of the year, a record number, reminds us, that tabloid. Now, it reminds us as well why this is all happening, and it's with a UN figure, a UN stat. Almost 60 million people were displaced in the world last year by either war or by poverty. And now the communist paper L'Humanité, again in France, talks of a new iron curtain in Europe. There it is, the rideau de fer, and denounces both a lack of public debate on immigration and the total loss of grip on reality by EU leaders who they think, who the paper says, thinks that they can essentially just lock up the whole continent like some sort of safe. Now, if we go across the channel, starting with the tabloids, while the French tabloids focus more on the human tragedy, in the UK, it's all distasteful wordplay and finger-pointing. So you can see here in the Sun's headline, Softy Calais goes ballistic. Frenchies are atrocious. Now this, when I say it, you might be able to hear, is a play on Mary Poppins' supercalifragilistic expialidocious.
I didn't get that, actually.
No, it took me a while to get that too. In fact, I had to read it somewhere else just to be sure that that was actually what they were trying to do. But obviously, they've managed to get in what they love the most, which is a bit of French bashing. Now, that sort of attitude may be reigning across the tabloids in the UK, but the broadsheets, like The Independent, have a bit more of a sensitive approach. So they look at the Leader Price supermarket in Calais. You can see the picture of it there. And they call that the new centre of Europe's migrant shame. And note that they use the word Europe and not France there.
Now, you mentioned there's some French bashing in the Sun. Indeed, this crisis has been poisoning relations somewhat between France and the UK.
Well, there have been a series of articles over the last 24 hours essentially pointing the finger at France for having been too lax towards those migrants in Calais who are waiting to cross over into the UK. So the Telegraph, the Daily Telegraph, which is more on the right wing, goes so far as to say, essentially, this is an MEP writing in the Telegraph, that we need to close down Calais until the French get a grip. Those are his words. Nigel Farage, this is recalling the fact that Nigel Farage, the far-right leader of the populist UKIP party, caused a Twitter backlash when yesterday he said it's only a matter of time before a British holidaymaker gets killed. So that's really indicative of this insular approach towards the whole crisis. Now, if we go back across the channel to France and Le Figaro, centre-right paper, rather than finger-pointing, puts Paris and London together and says both Paris and London are helpless when faced with this migrant crisis. London, it says, like Paris, prefers to focus on the consequences of migration rather than dealing with its causes. It also has a piece of advice for the UK Prime Minister, which is, if David Cameron wants to stem the flow of migrants, he can. All he needs to do is announce that from now on, ID cards will be necessary for those wanting to work in the UK, and there will be a crackdown on any illegal work.
OK, I'm not sure that's a solution, but we'll see. Now we'll move on to Afghanistan, Belle. Their intelligence services say they can confirm the death of Taliban leader Mullah Omar even. How's that been covered in the regional press?
Well, the News, which is Pakistan's largest English language paper, reports that Mullah Omar died 2 years ago in Pakistan, they say. And now that's citing both Afghan intelligence and also Afghan government sources. But, it says, apparently the Afghan Taliban refuted this. They released a statement on Wednesday night saying that this news is a conspiracy against the Taliban. Now, the News reminds us that of the importance of the timing in all of this, of course. It's just 2 days. This announcement comes just 2 days before a second round of peace talks between the Taliban and Afghan government representatives, which would have taken place or are meant to take place in Pakistan. 2 weeks ago, the BBC reported that Omar supported these talks. So the question is, will his death announced now undermine that? Now, a Saudi-owned London-based paper, Awsat, names 3 possible successors for the Taliban leadership, one of whom is Omar's son, Yaqub. It reminds us that this isn't the first time that his death has been announced. There have been at least 6 reports of his death since 2001. And then a Pakistani paper again, Dawn, a lawyer, Rafia Zakaria, writes that, she takes the opportunity rather, to take a look at all of this in the context of Pakistan and the US's war on terror. So she argues that the US seems to think it's come out of all of this with its hands clean, whilst Pakistan has had to become terrible in the fight against terror. But she points to the continued existence of Guantanamo to say that actually the US has been a front runner in championing the precept that to fight terror, you have to become terrible.
It is a fascinating story. Taliban still has yet to make a comment on those death reports of Mullah Omar. However, they did make a statement today saying they weren't even aware of the peace talks. Well, there you go. Belle Lupton with that international press review. Thanks indeed for that. That wraps it up for this edition. Have a great day.